Deep in the heart of a sun-baked land, far from the sweeping plains of his ancestors, a magnificent lion named Aslan endured a life of quiet despair. He was a creature of immense power and grace, born to roam free under the African sun. Yet, for 17 long years, his spirit had been tethered, his roar silenced, his very existence a shadow of what it should have been. Aslan's prison was a cruel parody of his natural habitat, a small, barren enclosure devoid of the sights, sounds and smells of the wild had become his entire world. The sun beat down mercilessly upon the dusty ground, offering no escape from the stifling heat. The air hung heavy with the stench of his own waste, a constant reminder of his captivity. The chains that bound him were not of iron, but of indifference and cruelty. They were forged in the hearts of those who saw him as nothing more than a commodity, a source of profit, a spectacle to be gawked at. Day after day, Aslan endured the stares of curious onlookers, their gasps of awe tinged with a morbid fascination that he could sense but not comprehend. He had arrived as a cub full of life and the untamed spirit of his kind, but the years had taken their toll. His once vibrant golden coat had faded to a dull ochre. His muscles had atrophied from lack of use, and his once piercing gaze had grown clouded with resignation. Yet beneath the weight of his captivity, a flicker of the wild still burned within him, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a lion. 17 years. It was a lifetime for most, an eternity for one who was born to roam free. 17 years of pacing the same dusty ground, of feeling the sun rise and set on the same unchanging scene, of hearing the same hollow echoes of his own frustrated roars. Each day bled into the next, a monotonous cycle of captivity. Aslan's world shrunk to the confines of his enclosure. He knew the exact number of paces it took to traverse its length, the precise location of every crack in the parched earth, the rhythm of the bars as they rattled in the wind. Food was provided, but it was a poor substitute for the thrill of the hunt. Gone was the instinctual joy of stalking his prey, the surge of adrenaline as he brought down his quarry, the primal satisfaction of a hard-earned meal. Instead, he was reduced to a scavenger, passively accepting the scraps of meat tossed into his enclosure. The social bonds that were so integral to his species were denied to him. He had never known the companionship of a pride, the comfort of a mate, the fierce protectiveness of fatherhood. He was alone, isolated in his misery, a king without a kingdom, a lion without a pride. The day of Aslan's release dawned like any other, the sun a fiery orb in the cloudless sky. The air buzzed with the relentless drone of insects, and the only movement was the dust devils that danced across the parched earth. But on this day something was different. There was an unfamiliar tension in the air, a sense of anticipation that even Aslan, dulled by years of captivity, could feel. A group of people had gathered outside his enclosure. They were not the usual gawking tourists, but serious-faced individuals who moved with purpose and determination. Aslan watched them with a detached curiosity, his ears twitching at the unfamiliar sounds of their voices, his nostrils flaring at the scent of hope that seemed to cling to them. Then, the moment he had ceased to believe would ever come arrived. The heavy padlock that had secured his chains for so long was broken open. The rusty gate of his enclosure creaked open, revealing a world he had almost forgotten. For a moment, Aslan hesitated, unsure of what was happening, afraid to believe that his long nightmare was finally over. But the call of the wild, dormant for so long, stirred within him. It was a primal urge, an irresistible force that surged through his veins, urging him forward. With a hesitant step, then another, Aslan crossed the threshold of his prison and stepped out into the blinding light of freedom. The world outside the enclosure was a sensory explosion. The air was alive with the scents of 1,000 different plants and animals. The ground beneath his paws was uneven and yielding, and the vast expanse of the sky was a breathtaking blue canvas stretching endlessly in all directions. Aslan stood there, taking it all in, his senses overwhelmed after years of sensory deprivation. The sun on his back felt strange. The wind ruffling his mane was a forgotten sensation, and the sounds of the wild, from the chirping of insects to the distant call of a bird, were a symphony to his ears. He took a tentative step forward, then another, his movements stiff and awkward after years of confinement. His muscles, atrophied from lack of use, protested with every movement. But with each step he felt a surge of something he had not felt in years: freedom. He explored his surroundings with a cautious curiosity, his senses working overtime to process the barrage of new information. He sniffed at the unfamiliar plants, his whiskers twitching, his head cocked to the side as if trying to decipher their secrets. He pawed at the ground, feeling the texture of the earth beneath his claws. While Aslan's physical liberation was a cause for celebration, the long-term impact of his captivity lingered like a shadow. 17 years of confinement had left their mark, not just on his body but also on his psyche. Physically, Aslan was a shadow of his former self. His muscles, atrophied from years of disuse, were weak. His hunting instincts, honed over millennia of evolution, were dulled. He was ill-equipped to survive in the wild, let alone thrive. But it was the psychological scars that ran deeper. 17 years of confinement had taken a toll on his spirit. He was withdrawn, hesitant, lacking the confidence and swagger of a wild-born lion. The trauma of captivity had left him with an ingrained fear of humans, a deep-seated distrust of anything unfamiliar. The complex social structure of a lion pride, with its intricate hierarchy and nuanced communication, was alien to him. He had never learned the subtle cues of dominance and submission, the cooperative hunting strategies, the bonds of kinship that were so crucial to their survival.